it's the Preacher, and today we're going to make some sliced deer jerky, and we're going to use a package mix for some of it. This makes 5 pounds. I've got more than 5 pounds here, so whatever this makes, we'll use the Backwoods by Limb. I've used this a bunch. I've never used it on sliced jerky, but I use this a bunch on ground jerky, and it's my favorite. It's my favorite jerky mix, and I just go back to it. I use the hickory, the mesquite, the original. This will be my first time using Cajun. So what I have here are some big chunks of meat, and these are just major muscle groups out of the, or major muscles. I don't have any muscle groups. I've got individual muscles out of the ham of a deer, and I'll bring around here and show them. Now what I did was I stretched them out. I put them on freezer paper. I stuck them in the freezer for about an hour and a half in the deep freeze. So they're stiff. They're not frozen, but they're stiff, and that's the way you want them. So I have my Cabela's, I think it's Cabela's brand, meat slicer. I don't know, I got it for Christmas a couple years ago. I'm going to get started slicing this up while it's still stiff. Something that's important to note. This here has some pretty big muscle grain in it. You can see it. What you want to do is you want to cut across that, or at least at a diagonal across that. If you cut with that, you're going to have some real stringy, chewy jerky. So if you like stringy, chewy, do that. I like somewhere in the middle. I don't like it where it just crumbles in my mouth, but I want it at about a 45 to that. So if you want tender jerky, go straight across. If you want tough, chewy, cut it with the grain. I'm going to go 45, all right? Okay, I don't really know what you can see, but here's a big thick chunk of meat. I'm going to set this on here where it goes across that grain at an angle, which is about like that. I'm going to put my little hand guard on there, and let's fire it up and see what it looks like. Okay, there's what we're ending up with. Can you see how thin that is? That's what we want. The first couple pieces are going to be a little ragged because it's not, but this is about right for jerky. I wouldn't go much thinner than that. So let's, now that we've got a good cut, let's just go through it. Okay, here's a little tip for you. This, as you can see on the back of the Backwoods brand seasoning, if you're going to do the marinade method, which is what we're doing, where we're using sliced meat. Like I said, I've never done it with sliced. I've always used the ground meat method, and you're just mixing this in with 5 ounces of water. But for the marinade method, what we're going to do for the entire pouch makes 5 pounds of jerky. So we're going to dump the entire deal of the seasoning. If you don't want the MSG or the whatever that little, it's not MSG, I don't know what it's called. The little seasoning packet or cure packet, if you don't want that in there, leave it out. 2.5 cups of water, which I have here, and the whole package. So here's what we're doing. This is the bowl I'm going to marinate the meat in. So rather than try to mix this up in one package and then switch over and put it, get the cure out of there. The cure always comes in one of these, and it's sodium nitrite, I think, is not MSG. Anyways, what I do is I just go ahead and mix this in the exact same bowl I'm going to marinate in. And the reason for doing that is because this stuff is real hard to get to dissolve. So what I'm doing is just getting it all worked around. And that way when I put my meat in here, every bit of the seasoning is already in here. I'm not trying to pour it from one cup or one bowl over the meat. Just go ahead and put it in the bowl you're going to marinate in. Just make sure it will hold 5 pounds of meat and 2.5 cups of water, which I use this bowl to make the ground in all the time, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. Well, look what I just noticed. I said I was doing Cajun, I opened original instead. And for hot, I like to add my own dried cayenne pepper. So, got 5 pounds of meat here. I can be pretty generous. Now let me whisk that around. I mean, the original's fine. I just like a little heat. I was kind of wanting to try the Cajun, but I'll do the Cajun in some ground, I guess. Alright, there's our seasoning blended in 2.5 cups of water. Here's our slices. So we're just going to start dropping these in there. If you're wondering where to get this backwoods blend, I think Academy sells it. I think Atwood's sells it. If you've got an Atwood's farm and ranch store near you, they have it. There we go. Now let me put a rubber glove on and I'll get in there and stir that around. If you have 2 rubber gloves, use 2 hands. If you only have 1 rubber glove, well then you use 1 hand. And this ain't rocket science. I mean, really, we just got to get all the meat in contact with the marinade. That's all this is. I mean, there's a big... I've got a lot of these bigger slices. I don't know if you can see that there. But then I've got some little crummy pieces like this off the end. So the main thing is you don't want just a big glob of meat with no liquid around it. So since we put the marinade in first, we know there was plenty on the bottom. And we know as we put the meat in, they got submersed in it. So by putting the marinade in the bottom and mixing it up in the pan or the dish you're going to marinate in, it really eliminates a lot of the problems of marinating sliced jerky like this. Now somebody asked me one time, could you marinate it beforehand? And yes, you easily could. The only problem is you're not going to get much taste. Marinades only penetrate into the meat about, 1/8 of an inch. So if you've got a chunk of meat 2 inches across that you're going to slice for jerky, you've only marinated, say, 1/4 of an inch of that meat. The rest of it's just meat. So kind of pushing the meat down. Everything's got marinade on it. I'm going to put saran wrap or glad wrap or whatever you have. You could probably put foil across it as long as the foil wasn't touching it. I'm going to put that across here, and then I'm going to put it in the fridge. We'll come back in the morning and take it out and put it on the dehydrator rack. Alright, now we're going to answer the $1,000,000 question. Preacher, what do I do if I don't have 5 pounds of meat? Or what do I do if I don't have the backwoods jerky blend? Well, get what you have. And so I grabbed some paprika. I grabbed some chili powder. I grabbed some garlic, granulated garlic, not garlic salt, but you could use that. I grabbed some soy sauce. This is dehydrated Tabasco pepper, and let me tell you something. It don't take much of this and you are real hot in a hurry. I have this Asian Golden Mountain seasoned sauce. It's kind of like a soy sauce, but a little bit different. And then sea salt, which I don't really think I'll need between the two soy sauce and the Garden Mountain seasoning sauce. So I'm going to add those first. And I'm going to kind of make an Asian style out of this, okay? So I'm going to put quite a bit of this in here. This is not soy sauce. This is just kind of an Asian flavor. And it's not nearly as salty as soy sauce either, but it's pretty salty. Now that's soy sauce. That's the fermented soy sauce. Okay. This is to your taste. Whatever you think would be good in jerky, put it in there. Let's add to that some paprika. So give us a nice red color. I've got 2.5 pounds of meat, by the way. I weighed that. Let's add some garlic. Let's add some of our... Oh man, that's hot. I'm telling you. That's going to be spicy. Just trust me. That's hot. Now, let's just stir this around and see what we kind of have for flavors going on in there. I know what else we need. I've got it sitting right here and I didn't add it. We need some black pepper. I put quite a bit. I'm a black pepper fan. And I've got some Lowry seasoned salt here, so I think rather than adding sea salt, I'm going to add the Lowry's, and then I'll get some of that seasoning in there as well. Alright, I just dipped the tip of my finger in there, and it's plenty salty, so I'm going to add some more garlic. I'm trying to put less moisture in here. I know I need some, but I'm just trying to put less. More paprika. And got quite a bit of soy in there. I'm going to do a little bit more. I don't... And I'll do some chili powder. Not a lot. Now, I'm going to need more moisture, and I don't want it to be these salty Asian seasonings, so I'm going to add a little bit of water. Now remember, to that other mix, it called for 2.5 cups to 5 pounds. So I've only got about half the meat. I've got 2.5 pounds of meat. I've probably got 1/4 cup of the liquid seasoning in there. So I'm going to add, I'm going to say 1/2 cup of water. Trust me, when you're dealing with a whole bunch of ground spices, you'll be walking around with one brown hand and one normal colored hand, or you'll have one red hand and one normal colored hand. Or you'll get that pepper down in between your fingernails, and then you'll burn your eyes every time you rub your eye. So that's pretty potent right there. Let me see if there's anything else I want to throw in that. I just love this stuff right here. So yeah, I'm going to put a bunch of that in there. Since it's Asian, why not go with a little sriracha? I'm probably going to regret that, but some like it hot. My wife does not. Alright, same as last time. You look at the meat that we've got, it's the same. I left everything set on the same settings. So some of them are a little thin. Some of them may, you know, if they're the last couple of cuts, might have gotten thick, but pretty much kind of partially froze it back together. There you go. Give you a good look at that. And there again, we started with the mix in the bowl. So we're not going to have, our meat will kind of get dunked as it goes in. Since it's a little bit frozen, it's kind of stuck together. So I want to make sure I've got it unstuck, because my hands would be better, but I can't find another rubber glove. So I'm going to push these under and move them around, and I'm going to do this for quite a while until I'm pretty certain that everything has a good coating of seasoning on it. Now the way to know if you've got enough seasoning on it or make adjustments is to get a piece of this meat and fry it. And then when you fry it, you'll get it won't be like jerky, it'll be a little different, but you'll have an idea if you need more salt, less salt, more of this, more of that, less of this, if it's too hot, not hot enough. I got one of the thicker pieces. And there again, I'm not trying to brown it, I just want it cooked so I don't poison myself. Yeah, we ain't touching nothing, that's perfect. I'm going to put saran wrap over the top of it and stick it in the fridge and let it marinate overnight. And then in the morning, first thing as soon as I get up, I'll start bringing dehydrator trays in here, and I'll load up my big dehydrator. I might just cook another piece of that for supper. Man, that was good. Anyways, I'll see y'all in the morning, or your time right now. This may damage my reputation, but I've been known to eat a Cajun crappie sandwich for breakfast. Alright, with the backwoods mix, it's been sitting overnight. That's what you end up with. Pieces all look very moist. I think the mixture has permeated through all of it. We just need to get those pieces on that. Now here's a little pro tip for you. This is freezer paper. If you're putting fish, or not fish, if you're putting deer in the freezer much, you do your own processing, you've probably got some freezer paper. Lay that down under your trays. And I've just got these 2 trays holding it. I use these little screens. Fitz Preacher gave me this one, so he had a cutout in his for where there was some little something in his dehydrator. But basically, I use these. They're just finer mesh, and you don't have to have them. Bigger jerky, you wouldn't even need them. I'm just kind of used to it, and I tend to use them. So I've got my paper down. I've got this is the backwoods. That's just the Asian that we threw together. I absolutely love it when I do everything and look up and the camera's not running. I'm just trying to find a little piece for this corner, and there it is. Okay, I'm going to call that good. That's 1 tray down. I've got 9 more to go. Okay, we've had these in the dehydrator for 6 hours. I set the timer for 8, and what you'll find is some trays get hot quicker than others, so after a couple hours I moved them around. Kind of took the ones in the center where they were drying faster, put them on the top. The very top tray and the very bottom tray. And my Cabela's dehydrator are always the last to dehydrate, so you end up having to kind of shuffle them around. Then I came back after 6 hours and checked them, and I would say probably half of them are ready. And by ready, I mean they are at my desired consistency. Some of them are crispy. Most of them will not snap, they'll just bend. All of them are tender because of the way we slice the meat. Now, this is the original backwoods, and I added a little bit of cayenne pepper to that. It's really good flavor. My mom and dad were here. I gave them some. They liked it. I filled up my whole dehydrator, and I only had 1 tray left. So I took the Asian flavored, Oriental flavored, whatever you want to call it, and I went down to my mother-in-law's and got this old Waring dehydrator that someone had given her that she had never used. And so I put most of the Asian in here, and I've got a piece of it here I want to try it. It's starting to get ready. It's a little bit behind the other one. That's good. Look how it tears apart. I don't want to give you, like, I did 125 for 6 to 8 hours, but everybody's dehydrator is different. The amount of moisture in everyone's meat is different. Your thickness and my thickness are 2 different things. How well you spread them on the trays, all of that has a bearing on this. So what I recommend you do is just follow the instructions on your dehydrator, or if you're doing it in the oven, follow those instructions. But the main thing is they're not all going to be ready at the exact same time, because there's varying degrees of thickness. Some of these are big and flat, some of these are skinny, so they're going to dry at different rates. They're going to be at different places on the tray. So after about 3/4 of the recommended cooking time, go in and check and pull the ones that are right. Rather than overcooking some, trying to get the rest done, pull them, consolidate those that aren't done, put them in maybe a center part or the hotter part of your dehydrator, and come back in maybe another 30 minutes or an hour and pull some more. And basically, as they're getting ready, and you can be the judge. It's like bacon. Some people like their bacon crispy, some people like their bacon chewy. Same way with jerky. If you want it chewy, pull it off before it's dried all the way. Let me take a piece of this Asian that's still kind of chewy, and I'll show you. This piece here, see, is kind of floppy. It's cooked, it's dried, but it's more moist and chewy. I don't like it as well chewy as I do, not crispy, but where when you bend it, it has a little give, but it also pulls apart easy. So it's just preference. I'm going to be honest with you. Not that I've been lying up until this point. I think I like that Asian better than I do this right here, the store-bought. That's a spicy Asian, and I really, really like it. There you have it. Give it a try. Deer jerky. You can buy store-bought. I recommend the backwoods flavors. I've tried the hickory, the mesquite, and the original. I meant to try the Cajun. One thing I did try of theirs was like Caribbean jerk, and it had cinnamon, and I just wasn't for me. So I recommend, if you're going to buy a store-bought brand, do the original, the hickory, or the mesquite. I think you'll like any of those three. Or you can kind of look at what I did with some soy sauce and some other liquid Asian seasoning and some garlic and Tabasco, ground Tabasco pepper. You can make your own Asian. So what I need to do now, storage. Put this in a Ziploc baggie, gallon Ziploc bag, throw it in the fridge. It'll keep in there for several weeks. You can freeze it for several months. You get it really, really dry and crisp. You could put it in an airtight, like a mason jar with an oxygen absorber, and you could keep this stuff on a shelf for a long time. Here we have a gallon storage bag. This is the original, so I'll just start dropping this down in here. This will be fine out on the counter for 3 or 4 days, because in 3 or 4 days all that'll be gone. Alright. One of two things have to happen. I either have to quit eating the jerky, or I have to turn off the camera so there's no evidence of me eating the jerky. I'll see y'all later.